Sarah looks so cozy with her little sweater on, or is that like a little?
It's a
I
big
must just drop
blanket.
my coffee. That's another good way to stay.
It's like one of those blankets that you use as the second thing on your bed. Whatever.
Yes, I was looking for it's. I like it. It looks very nice and cozy. I wanted to get one, and they're like a really soft extra blanket, and there's one called the Coma Inducer,
Mm.
and it's such like a what a weird name to pitch at a meeting, and everyone's like yes.
Yeah. Kind of like it's a mini, like Nick Griffin's joke, a mini suicide.
Yeah, I mean it's the thing is this. I tried to order it, I couldn't even find it. So like the name is you would think that's a name where people may not want to be in it. Like do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Especially if they've had a family member in a coma. You're like, well, I remember it not being that great.
Well,
Like what a weird name for a blanket. I
I
get it.
know.
It's supposed to just put you into a coma.
And that's what you want. Like you want to be in a coma.
Yeah, I'd be upset if I bought that and then I woke up a day later and I was like, what happened? I thought I was
It's
going to
like
be in this for like at least 3 months.
it's like that's what you say when somebody comes out of the coma. You're like, you look so well rested.
I had that joke like that about how you should be able to put yourself into a coma, and it was like, I feel amazing. And everyone's like, you look so well rested.
Well, here's a
I'd
weird
imagine
story.
You are.
I know. Well, I read. So I'm on this like subscribe to these weird emails. It's called Quora. It's a website where people and I choose all the subject matters that I'm interested in, and then it alerts me when people write in or ask a question, and then somebody in that field responds to
I
it.
think I'm in that also.
Yeah, I don't know how I got involved in it, but I really do enjoy the emails. And one was, what's the longest, or what's a medical surgery that went horribly wrong? And it was this back in 1971, this footballer in France was going in for a minor knee surgery, and the doctor fucked up and he went into a coma. And now he's still in that coma since 1971, and he holds the world record for being in a coma. And his wife still comes to his side on a regular basis and washes him and talks to him. And then there's a photo of him, and he
So
doesn't
this is how
he
old is
doesn't look well
70?
rested. Yeah, he must be. He must have been in his like maybe mid 20s, early 30s.
I mean, that's like 50 years ago.
I know. Can you imagine like every day going? I mean, I think we've touched on this with the Terry Shivago of like, how do you slowly kind of break up with your coma husband?
I mean, if that was me, I would still visit him, but I would bring all of my new boyfriends to meet him. And I would just ask if I had his permission. And I'd be like, if you don't wake up, that means you give me permission to start fucking this new guy. I'd be like, he's clearly okay with it. I don't know. I don't think I could. I guess on paper you can't legally get divorced because he can't sign it.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just like wild to me that they still keep him alive, but I think because it was the doctor seriously fucked up, and the doctor only got 3 years, I think, in jail for this major fuck up.
What I thought you were going to say is they were supposed to operate on his right knee and they did the left knee. Because, you know, if you go into surgery, you have to
That
write
happens.
you have to write like no and then yes.
Yeah.
Which seems like that should be the first part of being a doctor where you have to get the right body part.
Yeah.
Where
I
you
don't
that'd be weird to wake like somebody messed up and that's why you have to do that now.
No, I understand that because sometimes when I've put IKEA furniture, I've realized I put the wrong legs where it's like,
like how you're comparing putting IKEA furniture together over someone who's getting surgery on their kneecap.
well, it's so like, it seems like the same mindset where you're like, fuck, I just fucked up somewhere. And then it's just on a body. Like, I think about that with all the like medical stuff of like how much I liked waiting tables, but there was a part of waiting tables that I hated where I felt like people were demanding and psychotic. But then I think about, oh my God, that's got to be like 100 times worse when you're a nurse. Because it's like, people are demanding, but now everyone thinks their life is in is more important than the other person's life. Where with waiting tables, it's just like your meal is more important than the other person's meal.
Well, this is also the difference too. Is like because we don't tip nurses, we could be nasty to them. Do you know what I mean? Like if like nurses had to work for tips, I think people would be a lot nicer to them.
Yeah.
And maybe we should start tipping nurses because, like, I've seen people just be horrible cunts to a nurse. And a lot of times
crazy.
the nurse kind of knows almost more than the doctor because they're seeing you so regularly where they have to catch the doctor up and be like, it's almost like American Idol where they're like, what's this person in it for? And you have to, like, give them a slow recap.
Yeah, the backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think nurses can be just as helpful and just as smart as doctors can. In fact, I don't really have much faith in doctors lately.
No, but I did go to get a COVID shot, and I had an Asian doctor, and I felt like I trusted him. I trust, like, Asian doctors and Indian doctors. But, like, I do have a couple of Italian doctors, and I just go to them for the camaraderie, but I don't really feel like they're that good. I mean, one's okay. One of them I like because he'll just, like, one time I remember he had an old patient in there, and he told me he was going to live forever, and I heard that. And I go, why would you tell him that? He goes, who am I going to tell him he's going to fucking die tomorrow? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Be a little realistic with this. You're telling this guy's going to live forever. So I like doctors that will break that wall and can kind of, like, joke around and talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, be a little forthcoming.
Yeah, I remember I had 2 doctors that watched my degenerates, and one loved it, but he's like from Europe or something, where like their sense of humor I think is just a little bit better. And the other doctor was this Republican GYN doctor, and he said to me he was not upset about the school shooting jokes, which of course, because he's a Republican and loves guns.
Yeah.
What was he upset about? I think he was upset about the pedophile joke or something. Okay. And I was like, I just thought it was weird to be more upset about that when, like, at least your kid will still be alive if they got fucked by, like, a priest or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's still awful. Like, I had that idea about how, like, you should send if you love your kid, you would send them to Catholic school because there's less school shootings, but they'll probably, like, get fucked by a priest.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, at least they'll live to tell about it. There's really not a lot of, there's not, like, a lot of school shootings in Catholic school.
Yeah, you think there would be with all the molestation that goes on, that there would be some pushback.
I know, but I think what happens is you secretly fall in love with that. Not fall in love with them, but like you almost crave that attention. I remember, I don't know, I feel like we've talked about all this stuff before. Yes, but I think I know, and someone's going to leave a comment, but it has been 4 years that we've been doing the podcast, and I have like a little hamster brain. I don't know
and we're not
talked about anymore.
There's still a lot to be talked about.
Yeah, we have not fully investigated pedophilia. But I think at some point, and it's like that weird grooming thing where, like, if you're not getting that attention anymore, I think you get upset, even though it's negative attention.
Well, I remember watching the Michael Jackson documentary, and when Michael Jackson, this is where it got so disturbing, he would bring in other little boys to get the other guys that he's molesting jealous for the attention. Yeah.
That sounds like something a girl would do. Do you know what I mean? Like, you like a guy, but then you bring in another guy to make him jealous.
Yeah.
Well, what a bizarre. I wonder how Michael Jackson would have grown up if he was not in that family. Do you think he would have just been, like, a normal guy that works at, like, a car dealership or an accountant or something? Do you think he would have done that? But, like, he'd be one of those people that, like, always sang so people could hear how good of a voice he had.
Like, we may have seen him at 40 trying out for America's Got Talent. That show was around then.
I know, and then you'd have somebody who'd be like, I don't get it. And then you're like, well, this guy's actually... It's so weird when people do stuff like that, or they told Michael Jordan he wasn't really good at basketball, and then he's, like, one of the best.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to, like, tell you suck when you're young. So you could just be... So there's 2 types of people. Someone will be spiteful, or you'd have someone like me who would necessarily be like, you're probably right. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to move on. I'm going to become a nail assistant, an esthetician.
No, I know. I don't. When I get feedback, I'm never like, I'll show you. It's more like, yeah, okay. Thank you. This saves me a lot of time. Yeah.
I know. But like we've even heard about comics like that who have gotten turned down for stuff, and they're like, "I'll show you, and I'm going to become like this big star." And then
Yeah.
if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, "Well, I could see their point. I think they're right. I don't know if I
Well,
have star quality."
I've been around long enough, and I've had maybe one or two people. Well, I remember Pat Dixon telling me that I didn't have what it takes to make it or whatever, and that was 10
Did
years
you even
ago.
did you ask for that advice?
No,
Where were you, at a show and he just said you don't have what it takes to make it?
no, we were hanging out, and I forgot it came up or something like that. He's like, you're not going to make it in stand up. I think he was like, you might make it somewhere else, like in the comedy world, but not in stand up. And that was 9 years ago. And look at me now.
Well, I mean, you're doing way better than he is. You should give him a call and be like, "Hey, remember when you told me that? And I've been on a bunch of late night shows and stuff."
Well,
What are we just hanging out? What a weird thing to say to someone.
yeah, he lived 2 blocks away, and he was actually one of the first people that I met when I moved to New York, and he was friendly at a time, but he had his thing about, he was like, he would, I guess the term is negging, which always makes me feel like I'm saying a racist statement.
Negging. No, I've
Yeah.
heard that's like how to pick women up, you neg.
He like compliments you as well as insults you at the same time.
Did you ask him what you would be successful in the comedy world so you could pursue it?
No, because I was so like kind of annoyed with the statement that I just moved on to another subject. That I was like, what a wild thing to say. But then I always live by, as we were saying, like, I think of all the times that J.K. Rowling was denied Harry Potter. Like, she got so many rejection notices, and then you're like, that is one of the most lucrative books or whatever series ever in the history of writing books.
Now, did she write the book though because she got like fired from a job and she was on unemployment or something, or on welfare? Is that
She was
writer that?
Yeah, she was on welfare, and then she just had this story that she wanted to tell.
Now, doesn't that make you feel a little bit bad about yourself, and me too, that we've been in unemployment this whole time? We haven't written any books.
But I was thinking, with getting unemployment, it's really allowed me to make videos and work on other things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, because before I was doing a day job and then doing shows at night, so it didn't really allow me to like
The
I don't
time and
know,
the freedom to
work on
really-
our pitch and then our show and then
That's
do
true.
our podcast, and then I do a lot more videos that I've been doing, and I enjoy it. Like,
Your videos are great.
but like getting government assistance has been really beneficial that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's also people who probably have gotten really depressed and into hard drugs too. So they're also really grateful for unemployment.
Yeah, all this time.
Just like this time out to just experience and be like a drug addict.
I do have to say it makes sense, because I'll try to like get ready for a run, and I'm like, God, I don't want to do this, but I like the result afterwards, that I was like, I should just do drugs. That way I don't have to do the run, and then I can get the result.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of things though. You don't want to do it, but you don't want to have done it. What is it saying? Like, you don't want to do it, but you wish that you had done it already.
Yeah, I like the feeling afterwards when I feel like I've done something.
When you've accomplished something. I used to love when I was going to kickboxing, and now that's donezo until COVID's over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
even-
really hard one to do.
I don't even think I could go to a class right now. If COVID ended tomorrow, I would be like, yeah, I'm going to need to like work out before I could even do this again. It
Yeah.
was pretty intense, but I liked it because it was short classes and you wanted to throw up after every class, which I think is a sign it's a good workout.
Yes. I know. It does make you feel like when it's short like that, it does make you feel like you've accomplished something.
It's great. It's out of the way. It was like 3 blocks away. It was the best thing until COVID happened.
Yeah. I actually COVID has been really beneficial. What we were talking about earlier about like the idea of getting a cabin in the woods to write a book.
It sounds like such a great idea, especially like there was also, I think, a comic like Mayron and his husband or boyfriend. They had gone somewhere like cabin-esque where you're just like out in the country and it's this big house and you can cook. And after a while, I do wonder, like, especially if you don't have Wi-Fi and you can't do anything on the internet, you have to like write a book. What
Yeah.
else could you do?
I think they did shrooms the whole time.
Oh, that would make sense. I think I could do shrooms and be in a cabin for a long time. But also, as soon as I started seeing a bear and shit, I would not want to leave my house.
Yeah. That looks scary. I still don't know how to deal with the bear. Some bears you have to like aggressively approach, and then some bears you have to like act like you're not interested in them.
Well, it's hard to know which kind of bear they are, too. It's kind of like when you go into a meeting with an executive, you're like, are you the fun type where I can joke around with you, or do I have to just get straight to the point?
Yeah.
But you can't really do that with a bear, where you either have to make yourself bigger or just ignore them like they don't exist.
That's the thing.
I guess you try both.
Yeah. And then you see which one they gravitate to. Also the idea of, I would laugh so hysterically if you and I were hiking and we came across a bear and you had to watch me get really big and massive.
And I was like, Sarah, this is what you've worked for. Maybe people just take acting classes to do that.
Yeah,
teach me how to be bigger than myself and scare a bear away.
It just seems so embarrassing to be like, Ruh! Like just to get up all fierce like or whatever.
And then I'm just by the tree ignoring it, hoping that it doesn't come over to me.
You're just embarrassed for me.
I remember I went hiking over the summer, and there was this one place that said, just want to let you know, like, bears are around here. And I had so much anxiety the whole time I heard a plane, and I was like, I think that's a bear, and I left. Like, the thought of that, I almost rather not know.
Yeah.
I couldn't enjoy it. Every time I passed someone, I would be like, have you ever seen a bear here? It just didn't make me feel good. I'd rather just not know.
No, I'm like that with if you go like on those hikes, like kind of like where it's like rocky or desert like, and there are rattlesnake sightings, and you're like, I can't go on you reach for a rock to pull yourself up, but I put my hand in like a rattlesnake nest, and then I'm just like, I don't know, bloated in a ravine because I just swell up.
I'd say this last week, so I stopped doing shows right around Thanksgiving, and I've been in a bit of a depression where I've watched about 60 hours of TV. I finished multiple series. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, have you ever watched Bloodline? It's really good. I watched it for the second time. And there's 3 seasons, but they tell you, like, it doesn't go like season 1 to 12, and then season 2 is 1 to 12. It's like season 1 is 12, and then season 2 picks up at 13. So you see how many hours you've wasted, and it's like 34. I wasted 34 hours watching Bloodline.
Yeah, you can do it almost in like 2 or 3 days straight, and you're like, what have I done?
I know, but I'm getting to the point where I finish these series, and I'm getting depressed like someone died. Like, that's what these TV shows have become to me, where they're almost like a part of my life, and now they're dead.
I felt like that with Game of Thrones, because I dedicated...
Oh, my God, Game of Thrones, yeah. That's... What? How many seasons was that, 10?
I don't know. It wasn't 10, but it was close to it. And then you would get so excited to wait for the next season, and you'd have to wait a whole year, but then sometimes they're like, shooting was postponed for something. So sometimes you'd have to wait 2 years for the season finale.
And that feels like they're really a part of your life. Because they've been in your life for like 8 years. So I'm just getting really depressed after these shows are ending. I wonder if anyone else has felt like that, especially if you're watching something continuously. I watched The Killing pretty quickly also, which is also a really good show. And after a while, you feel empty.
You should get on TikTok.
I know. I'm just scared I'll never get off.
I know. It is true. No, I think that feeling is real, and a lot of people have that with their TV shows, because it's like, well, what else do I have nothing to look for, and I'm in a pandemic, and I can't even do goals or see friends, and these are my new friends.
I know. It's so weird. I went to see my mom and my sister and my nephew, and I left there the whole time thinking I had COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm not even super close with my sister, so I can't even say to her, hey, do you feel like you have COVID? I just have to check in every day and see how she's feeling, which is weird because we don't talk often. So I'm just like, she did give me some information, though, a place you get checked for COVID where you can sit in your car and it takes a half hour, as opposed to me standing online in the rain for 2 hours. So
Yeah, it's cold.
I did it on Thanksgiving and it was pouring. I was just me and some lady who bonded for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then like you know everything about this lady in an hour and a half, and then you just never see them again. It's such a weird
and then they're like,
experience.
She never asked me one thing about me.
Yeah, she did talk a lot, which was good though because I just wanted the time to go by. But yeah, it is weird.
It is weird. I had that once. I had a flight that was delayed, so it made me miss my connecting flight, and I was in Atlanta airport overnight, so I had to spend like 8 hours sleeping on a bench. And usually the first flight is around 5:30 or 6 in the morning, so people start coming in around 5. And so the news was on, and I just like slowly get up from my bench, and then there's this guy standing there watching TV, kind of redneckish, but not super, I don't want to say like redneck, but like country. And he and I just probably talked about like we just did a podcast and it was like meaningful stuff and the philosophy of life by watching the news together. And then I was like, all right, I got to go catch my flight. And then we never exchanged names.
It's weird, right? Where you don't even say like, should we hug? Like, I feel like I know all about you and your wife and your 3 kids and which one you're disappointed in.
It was so insane that I was like, I feel like we had a full-on relationship and now we're breaking up.
It's bizarre. This lady told me all about her and her husband. She was a special ed teacher. She worked with kids all the time. She had lost her job and then got a job right like in September. And she said, like, you're working with these kids who are really, like, on the spectrum. And some of them are, she's like, I've gotten bit and someone's thrown something at me. And I can't, like, I don't even want to do a job where I wouldn't get bit, like a regular job. I was like, you must really love these kids because I would just be out. The first time a kid bit me, I would be like, you're fucking
not worth
done.
It. Yeah, you're fucking
Well, my mom taught me, too, if a kid's acting bad, I don't know, maybe she taught me this in the park or something when I was a kid. Like, if a child's acting bad, you can't obviously hit him, but you could just dig your fucking fingers into them and be like, hey, stop it, but you're just fucking squeezing their hand.
And making direct eye contact, like...
Yeah, like, stop it, Peter, but you're fucking just giving him a just, like, putting your hands, like, really sternly into them. I don't know if you could do that with like, kids in the spectrum or not, but that would be my tactic, I think.
I don't know. I would just be worried if they're like, that lady just dug her fingers into me while keeping a really nice tone where you're like, that's crazy.
Or you're just like, hey, Peter, this is why your parents split up because you're a piece of shit.
Because you won't stop biting, or you're like, you're letting everyone know that you've been touched.
I mean, I could not. If I had a kid that bit me, I think I would just put like poison all over my arm and let him bite it and just pass out and be like, "This is what's gonna happen if you keep biting.
Yeah,
you're gonna almost die every time because I have poison all over my arms."
Biting is weird. Every now and then, there's guys or girls when they get fucked up, like drunk, are biters, and it's so disturbing.
That is weird. I remember someone telling me that he was hooking up with this chick and he was like a germaphobe. So he was like very picky about who he'd hook up with, and he's hooking up with this one girl and she wants to be punched in the face during sex.
That's a risk. I feel like I'm getting set up for something.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk, and it's hard to write in the middle of that, say, hey, can you just write a little statement saying you wanted me to punch you in the face?
Yeah.
And then also calling a notary over. Let's just take, where you just have a notary in your house for stuff like that, where you're just like, hey, we're going to have to take a time out right now. So you can put this on paper that you want to be punched in the face.
It's like if you do a threesome, you got to make sure that third person's a notary.
Yeah, so they can just take out their pen and their little stamp thing.
I want
I
to
was
be a
sort of
notary for that.
I think being a notary is very handy. You always need a notary for something odd.
Oh yeah, we had one in the office, and we're like, her name was Andrea, and I was like, Andrea, I need you for a second. Like people like it's like a thing that makes you really valuable.
In the office, we had this guy named Omar in the office, and he was a notary. And I remember when he had first worked in the office, I thought he was cute, and we went out to get like Chinese food during a lunch break. And then he told me, he was like, "Hey, I really like your mustache." I was like, that's not something you should say to someone's face. But he like genuinely liked it. And I was like, that's so weird. You're there the whole time just being like, oh, thank you.
Okay. That's so sweet.
Thank you for telling me that. I'm not going to be self-conscious. I'm not going to be self-conscious the rest of the day.
He was so funny.
He was a bizarre guy. I remember he either got fired and then like wrote me a really long email on Facebook maybe. And he wrote it to me and he was drunk. And it was just like, he was saying everyone in the office was shit and he hated everyone. And he wrote me this really, really long thing. And I guess he knew I was doing stand-up. And he was like, but you're going to be really successful at stand-up. Something it was so weird. And then I was on vacation, so I called my boss and I was like, hey, did you guys fire Omar? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, because he wrote me a diatribe of fucking everyone he hates in the office.
Yeah. That's so fascinating.
He had gotten one of these girls pregnant, and then I don't know if she hit him or he hit her. It was just like drama central, which I loved.
Yeah. Oh, last night, so we went to go eat at an Italian restaurant, and they had a back room where it was like a full Italian family eating back there. And within like towards the end of their meal, this girl got really emotional and started yelling at everybody in her family. And it was so then the waiter just like kind of closed the door a little bit to give them some privacy. And he's like, sorry, it's getting a little heated back there. And we were like, can you just keep it open? So
we want to hear what's going on.
Yeah, I'm really like, this drama is exciting because I love, if I don't know you and there's drama happening, God, like I want to know everything so I can determine whose side I'm on. And then I want to chime in and give my 2 cents.
That office was great. That office had so many moments of insanity because it was just like, it was a law office and also a collection agency. And people who work at a collection agency are like, might as well just be straight out of prison. They're just like, just like people who are like, know how to get money out of people. And this one guy, Jonathan, when I first showed up to interview, I remember he was missing prominent teeth. Okay. Which is weird in an office. And then he got fired because he was watching S&M porn during the day. And he went to lunch and he didn't exit out of it. And my boss had to go to his desk for some reason. And he left that on there and she fired him. And I was like, well, he's been doing it this whole time. Why can't we just let him keep watching? He's not jerking off in the office.
Yeah, and his numbers are really good.
I don't know if his numbers were great. I think if if his numbers were great, they would have let him stay. They were just okay.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy. I remember when I first got to that job, he asked me if he could borrow money. And I was like,
I love that.
No.
Anyone, that's so crazy. When somebody
I worked
asks to
there
borrow
2
money.
or 3 days.
Yeah. You're like, no, absolutely not. And I'm embarrassed for you for asking me that.
I felt bad. He probably needed it, but I don't think he was going to spend it on rent. I don't know. I don't think you're missing prominent teeth and not doing some type of drugs.
Yeah, something's happening there. Well, I shared you that TikTok because it started off with like, what's the one time incident that you knew that your office was toxic? And I love, because I find
it was so great.
I think a lot of offices or office culture is quite toxic. And this one, like, they had to move offices and they had to bubble wrap their boss's desk so delicately because apparently it was covered in jizz underneath.
And I watched that video and I'm like, if you're going to jerk off in your office, why are you not jerking off into a tissue? Why are you just letting it go all over? That's something you do in a hotel where you just
Yeah.
let it go on the wall and shit. Why are you doing that in your office and just letting it go down the side?
I think that, yeah. I think a lot of guys do that, and it's disturbing. My friend told me this really funny story, and I kind of want to make it into a play or like a scene. When we were like in middle school, she was at a slumber party with like 4 other girls, and it turned epic because they were hanging out in their parents' bathroom, and one girl noticed like cum stains on the wall, and she accused the one girl's dad of like masturbating and ejaculating on the wall, and then it became a huge like downright fight and like a split in the group for the night. And I was like, what an epic night of emotions. And we've done sleepovers before. That's why I like Pen 15. Like it goes like for hours while the parents are asleep, and it's epic. There's like alliances that are formed and then are broken. And then and then like pranks are played on each other, and people are mean to one girl and then they're mean to the other girl. It's so wild.
Well, what's weird to me about that is I guess I was kind of a late bloomer in a sense where like I didn't really know anything about sex till I was pretty old. Like,
yeah.
I remember we had a surprise sleepover at my house, and it was a surprise party for my birthday, and my friend ended up telling me. I've had a lot of people tell me about surprises. Like, I think I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to go back and tell this girl, Sherry, that she fucked that up for me.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing to happen at that party was my mother had to get permission from everyone's parents to see if they'd be okay letting us watch Pretty Woman.
Yeah, that makes sense, because there are movies I had no idea were controversial. Like, so my mom didn't like Pretty Woman because she just thought I could still watch it, but she thought it was insane that it's a Disney movie about a girl that's on her first day of prostitution just finds the best guy ever that wants to save her.
Is that a Disney movie?
Yeah, it's produced by Disney.
I mean, I guess in a sense it's not much different from Cinderella.
Yeah, or My Fair Lady. It's very similar. But then I remember remember that movie Flatliners with Julia Roberts, Jason Patric, and Kiefer Sutherland?
Yes.
Then they're med students, and that they learn how to do a near-death experience so they can see the light and see if they need to make amends in their life. I didn't realize this movie was controversial, but being in Kingwood, Texas, and everybody's like uber religious there, my friend was not allowed to see that movie because it questioned God.
Really?
Yeah. I never put that together. I was like, oh, I just thought it was like a cool movie about near-death experiences.
No, that movie freaked me out because I kept thinking about the girl that all of us kind of bullied in school. And I was like, ugh, I'm going to have to find this chick. I was like, I should just find her on Facebook and apologize.
Yeah. That movie was quite disturbing because there was one kid that they chased and he ended up falling off a tree and then dying, and then that guy felt responsible for it.
I do remember that. I remember something about someone in a tree coming and haunting. Like, they just haunt you your whole, like, afterlife, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. I'm going to try and rewatch that movie. I just don't get it. So, like, if you're going to haunt me in my dream, just, like, do it and beat the shit out of me one time and let's move on. I don't want to have to deal with that every day in eternity.
Yeah, because then I'm like, I'm kind of glad that we did that. Obviously, I knew something was fucked up with you if you keep holding on to this grudge.
I knew it. Yeah, it's like I knew it. You actually deserved every bit of it.
Insane.
Julia Roberts has had a crazy, crazy career.
Yeah, and she still looks pretty great.
Yeah, I remember she had been doing maybe some like kind of game show or something, and John Legend was in it, and Chrissy Teigen, I guess, walked over to him to say something, and she's like, "Is that how you hang out in your house, dressed up like that?" And she was just like, "You look gorgeous," and then her and some other older actress was just like, "It takes me 20 minutes to look just like this."
Yeah,
and it's like, don't worry, in 20 years, Chrissy Teigen's gonna be doing the same thing.
Yeah, well. I saw this TikTok and it was really appreciative. The guy's like, "Don't worry, you're not ugly. You're just poor." And then he went through.
actually so accurate.
It is, because then he brought up all these stars before they made it. And you're like, they are just like us. They just
Yeah.
have a makeup team and got the right amount of plastic surgery that's not
A
too
nose
crazy.
job.
Because I looked at Ariana Grande, and you're like, she's just a regular looking girl. And then now she just looks like, my friend says she's like a perfume bottle.
Kind of. And she also has like that like long ponytail. I remember when Pete was dating her and she came into the cellar.
Oh,
And she
wild.
had she came into the cellar one time. And I guess she was in that phase where she was wearing really long sweatshirts with boots.
Yeah.
And then she had a friend with her who had jeans on. And then they were ripped so much that they only connected at like the ankle and the upper thigh. So it just kind of looked like a skirt when she sat down. It was a bizarre look. But I guess she couldn't do the sweatshirt look because that was Ariana's thing.
That's so funny. That's so bad. But then
Yeah,
because you're
bizarre.
rich and cute, you can just wear stupid shit like that and get away with it.
Right. If she was like garbage and wore that, everyone would just think it was trashy that she was wearing a sweatshirt with these boots.
Well, there's another thing on TikTok that I like that people are like, does this look good, or is it because the model is skinny? And then they recreate the outfit by being like like a normal average woman size. And then I love
terrible.
it. They're like, this looks so bad. And it's really funny because you're like, some of these outfits that Bella Hadid wears, you're like, that looks so stupid. And if I showed up like that,
Everyone
would
make fun of me.
yeah, absolutely. And it would be like, I'm wearing like a really ugly, gross outfit. But it only looks kind of good because you're like, you have plastic surgery and you have an amazing body.
Well, I know they always say like models who are so thin and stuff they could wear like a potato sack, and you're like, if I wore a potato sack, I'd probably need several of them sewn together, and it would not look nice at all.
What's like that? There's like all those girls look really cute wearing sweats because they have like long fingernails and their hair and makeup is done up. But then you're like, I think if I wear sweats and just showed up, people would be like, are you depressed? I would just look like I'm just been watching Law and Order all day.
But you'd have to say, no, this is like the newest Bella Hadid outfit. And they'd be like, well, you're not really working it. I also started watching America's Next Top Model.
Oh, that's a very funny, hilarious, toxic show towards women.
So toxic, but I got to a season where they're doing men and women.
Perfect,
yeah. But I think because you can fast forward through stuff, I only would watch 2 parts of the show.
Okay.
I would fast forward through all the house bullshit.
Yeah.
Watch them do the activity and then fast forward to the end till I saw their pictures, because that's really all I liked is the picture part. Yeah. I was knocking out seasons in like 2 days. That's what I'm
amazing.
saying. Like, I know, and that stuff I didn't really get. I guess because I wasn't really into it that much, that stuff didn't bother me. But watching these other shows and having it take 30 hours of your life away, it does feel depressing when it leaves. I know we talked about this before, and now I'm like, what am I going to rewatch? Maybe I will watch, what was that movie, the show you were talking about on HBO? House of Thrones? No, not House of Thrones. What is it
Game of
called?
Thrones?
Maybe I'll get into that. I've never gotten into it, and that could probably kill at least 4 or 5 days.
Oh, yeah, because they're an hour each, and there's quite a bit of seasons. And I really like it, but there's lots of, like, I usually do this one once every few years. I'll watch the whole Sex in the City. And
I can watch Sex in the City at any time. It's one of those shows that I never get bored.
Yeah.
I'm always into it, and that's one of those shows that, I could watch anytime. I also restarted watching Dawson's Creek.
I never got into that one. That Dawson's Creek hit right when I was starting to drink a lot, so I was just going out the whole time and not paying attention to a lot of stuff on TV or movies.
It's not bad. Go back and rewatch it. I also started watching what was the other show? The Good Girl.
I want to get back into 90210.
I would love a 902. We've talked about this before. I don't know if anyone would even be interested in it, but I would like to watch it just to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch. I got to find out where you can find it. I don't know if it's on Hulu or I feel like I wish Netflix would just get that, the whole
They
90210.
might. I wonder. Yeah, I would love to watch that show. But honestly, everyone who was on that show kind of has a sad life. I mean, I still remember cracking up over you telling me you liked Ian Ziering. That was such a funny thing because I was picturing you were going to say, like, Brendan, and then you came out with that, and I was like, what?
No, there is some like kind of vulnerability with Steven, and I always thought that he was not one of the more attractive ones, that it made him the
No.
nicer character, that I liked him.
I like the guy that killed himself.
Luke Perry?
No, the guy that was twirling the gun.
Oh, yeah, that
And
guy.
then you have to say to everyone, hey, I think the party's over. That's such a weird thing to have someone shoot themselves in your house, and then you're like, all right, we're just going to keep that door closed. No one go in there. Someone kill themselves.
But we're going to keep this party going. I remember that, I remember, a friend of mine, we'd be going out, and then she'd get in a fender bender, and it would ruin the whole night, that I wanted to be like, hey, can you leave? Because I don't want to deal with this.
Time.
Yeah, I'm still having a good time, and I don't care. Just go fix your car and then come back to us. I don't know. I always think that's a nice, it's like how we talk about when you eat a dick on a show, it's your moral responsibility to leave right after so other comics don't have to deal with your
Pretend
stink.
you did well.
Yeah.
Unless you're the type of person you're like, that was fucking brutal. You know what I mean? I've done that where I've just hung out at a show after and been like, that was god awful. And you see and then everyone else does great on the show, and you're like, yeah, man, it was just me. It was totally just me.
I hate that. Why did that happens occasionally, and you're like, what is it that the only thing I can think of is that you just get in your head, and that the audience feels that you feel like you're not worthy to be there because everybody else has been killing it.
Yeah, or you start to not do well, and then instead of trying to regain their trust, you just further hurt their feelings, and then they go deeper into a tailspin of not liking you. I always thought that you should have a buzzard and you could just fall into the ground and not have to pass any of them.
Absolutely. I always do the thing after I bomb and you have to walk through this audience to get to the exit. I always look like I'm going through my set list being like, okay, I did that. Okay, I did that. To make it seem like I had a purpose up there.
Or if you ever have to go to the bathroom after your set, after you bomb, and someone from the show's on the line, they're like, I thought you were funny. And you're like, don't talk to me. You shut your fucking mouth. You let me sit here in my silence and feel bad by myself.
I would love it if you were like, just shut your mouth.
Get out of here. We all know that was terrible.
Yeah. What are you, stupid? That was dog shit out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I did get a Christmas tree. It's fake.
Hey, it's just I want to get one, but I've just been kind of lazy about stuff lately.
Well, I just ordered it on Amazon. I didn't get a real one because I felt like it would shed all over the place. But then I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Maybe I'll just leave it up all year.
Hey, why not? They're very cheerful.
I think it looks nice. It's not decorated, but I felt like I would get to that part sometime this week. It's hard this Christmas because it just feels so, I don't know, blah. I think also just finishing those shows really added to my depression level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to find some shows for you to watch. If anybody knows something great. There's a new cult doc about Heaven's Gate on Netflix that I've been watching.
Oh, what's that? Is it a documentary?
Yeah, remember that mass suicide that took place in 1996 where everybody was wearing Nikes and they looked androgynous and they were all sleeping in their bunk beds covered in...
No, I do not remember this.
Oh my God, it was a huge story. So they all committed suicide so they could all get beamed up to this comet that comes every now and then. And that
and
that would take them to the celestial... Yeah, well, I guess they had a certain aesthetic that they liked. They thought they should be all devoid of, or whatever the terminology, of sexuality. So they all looked androgynous.
Mm-hmm.
And so the look was kind of like like a kimono top that was like a linen, and then they would wear Nikes, and they all had short hair and looked like lesbians. And then
someone told them that they'd all get beamed up to a comet in another like, how did they kill themselves?
I forgot. I guess we'll find out in there. I'm assuming they kind of just like the proverbial saying, they drank the Kool-Aid.
How do you even convince somebody that that's going to happen? Does that start off as a Craigslist ad?
Dude, and they were doing this pre-internet. So they were just going around the country, like being like, can we use your whatever cafeteria? And they would set up signs all over town being like, do you believe in this? Are you looking for this? Would you like this in your life? And then people showed up. And then this was during the when New Age thoughts and medicine, like, crystals and like, the hippie kind of movement. It started back in 1971, and they managed to get some core members, and they stuck around until 1996 when they killed themselves.
20 years?
I know. Isn't that amazing? But when I watch a lot of these cult docs, they do stick around for quite a bit. Like, a lot of these people have
getting out of it.
I think the thing is that eventually they've alienated everyone in their life, that this is what they know the best, and they've developed some bonds with their friends, and they see them as like, their loved ones or whatever, that they feel like if they leave, it's kind of like how I feel about if I got out of comedy, where you're just like, I got to start all over.
Yeah, but see, we always say we're going to quit stand-up, or we think about it, but at least we do have some positive reinforcement throughout the years. It may not be every year, but there is something to let you know you're going in the right way. How do you keep people's attention for 20 years in a cult?
I don't know. A lot of it just seems by like giving them, if you're the leader, some kind of reward system or a feedback. And it makes them feel welcomed in a way, I guess. I don't know.
I think it has to be like a guy that's the leader and he fucks everyone. I think that's how you keep the cult going.
Well, I haven't gotten to that point of the doc yet, and I'm not sure if this guy does that to people.
You don't, I can't understand how else a cult would function if he's not like, I mean, I guess it's weird. How do you have the guys get into it then? Are you also fucking the dudes? I don't know. That seems like, I don't think I could be in that and not have an attachment on, like, what's keeping you in there?
I have no idea, but when they say that a lot of people that join cults aren't just like dummies, they're like well-educated people. And a lot of them leave their families. Like, it's so crazy. The one lady that started it with the guy, they went by Doe and T, and T had a daughter, and she was like, she left her behind because she's like, yeah, Joe, we were laughing about it. Like, what do you say? Like, oh, you have to finish middle school, but I got to go find this comet to get on.
I could see being unhappy in a marriage and using that as an out. Where like I didn't want to be around my kids, and I was like, I found this cult where I could get away from my family. That would be appealing to me if I was in a marriage with 2 or 3 kids I just didn't want to deal with. Instead of, I'd be like, hey, it's either this or I drown you all in the fucking river. And
yeah.
I think everyone would be like, hey, we think you should go find that comet.
That's good. I like this for you.
What do you tell the kids when they're like, where's mom? And you're like, well, she found this group of people and they're all wearing Nikes. And the kids are like, but we have Nikes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they did interview some of the kids, and they were so, you can see the emotional damage that did on them, because it was just like under the guise of like, this, I'm going to a celestial heaven. This is for my own good, and you should be happy for me. But you're like, what a very selfish thing to do, is just leave your family behind.
Well, I have to be honest. Like, my biological father, like, left and just started another family. I would have preferred if he just went to follow a comet. Because that's, like, something I couldn't have offered him. I'd be like, well, that makes sense. That's, like, a community of people that, like, love a comet, but this guy just left and went to start a new family.
Yeah, you're like, see, so you see that it's not my fault. Like, he had to find that comet.
Right. And now I'm like, well, I guess it was me. It was
Yeah.
kind of my fault.
I know. It's absolutely wild, but it makes me think that it might be easier to start a cult more than you think.
We've always said we were going to try and start a cult on Craigslist.
It's just a lot of work.
I think it's just one ad.
What?
I think you just say we're looking to start a new religion. We're open to ideas. We don't even want to be I think though people want to be told what it is already. I don't think we could give them any control.
I think we also have to like set up courses and like a set of rules that if you do all this, you will feel enlightenment. And because when you do finish a to-do list, you do feel good about yourself.
I think we'd have to do it on Zoom though because of COVID. We'd have to start this church on Zoom.
Well, that's where they ran into problems. They were talking about like our bodies are not we are not our bodies, and we are celestial beings, and we're trying to, if we follow all these rules, we will make it into the celestial heaven. But the leader, T, the woman that's co-founded this group, died of cancer, and it caused they called it cognitive dissonance. And they say this happens a lot in religion when two conflicting beliefs intersect, and it makes the religion have to reevaluate itself, kind of in a way like, how can I rationalize this into it where it fits into our belief system? And what they said was she was so pure that it burned her body, and that's why she couldn't. She did too much. She was too powerful that it burned her out.
Too pure. She was too pure that her body died from cancer.
Kind of like she blew her load. She worked too hard.
I wonder if you're saying that and you see people start shaking their head and you're like, well, also this. This is also another part of that. She was too pure, but also not pure enough. And people are like, oh, this is like blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's just really fascinating, and it gives you a shift into like how religion can be kind of bullshit.
It's, first of all, anyone who's super religious, whenever they get cancer, they go for treatments. They don't just sit at home and pray. So that's how you know religion's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, how crazy is it to believe that your Lord and Savior gives you cancer when you're 6 years old or something? You know what? Like, I can get into a God, but not like a belief system that he's just like, here, I'm going to teach you a lesson by giving you cancer at 6.
Well, I'm sure religious people would say that that's God just testing us. And you're like, well, just can't you test me another way and have our house just go on fire? Why do I have to lose my like 6-year-old child to cancer?
I know, it's so tragic. But yeah, that's the part that's like, it makes it hard. But then like, that's where all those like, I don't know, religious people always rationalize every bullshit, and you can't have arguments or like actual discussions about stuff with them.
You can, but it'll get weird. Like, you can say that like God rapes you every night and be like, what is that about? Every night when I go to sleep, I get raped by Jesus.
You're like,
that's just, you're being filled with his Holy Spirit.
So you should feel fortunate.
Right. None of us, we all want to be raped by Jesus.
Yeah.
And
so
none of us have.
Stop, complain up. Okay.
Yeah. They're like, what do you do? And then some girl's like, what are you wearing to bed? I haven't been raped by Jesus. Were you just naked? And you're like, well, I'm just wearing this Adidas sweatsuit. He's really into it.
He likes Adidas for some reason. No. It was fascinating. So if you want something to watch, but don't get attached to the characters because they all commit suicide at the end.
Well, now that you told me that, I'm not going to get depressed because I already know it.
Okay.
Does anyone take all their Nikes? That's just like I would hope all of them had like nice Jordans, but it seems like they might have been out before that, like this cult. Although Jordans have probably been around since the 90s or 80s.
Yeah, they at least once I was I think in middle school is when I started hearing about people getting Jordans.
Well, I would just be friends with one of them so they could tell me when they're going to all kill themselves, and I could just take all their sneakers. I'd be like, look at all these nice sneakers I got.
Look at all these Jordans.
And everyone would be like, how come none of these people have shoes on? I'd be like,
I
well,
know.
Adrienne stole them all.
Well, yeah.
She's selling them on Poshmark.
I would buy some Heaven's Gate Nikes. You know what's fun? The Heaven's Gate story was one of my first bits I ever tried to do on stage.
I've never even heard of this before.
So the very first time I did stand-up, I saw an ad for the Aspen Comedy Fest.
Oh, wow. I remember that.
And I knew it from HBO. So I was like, but I didn't know that once I got there, I was like, oh, I see. People have an act. I thought they were like, because the way you see it in the back page is like, do you think you're funny? And you're like, yeah.
Of course. I'm doing comedy for 2 months.
So I drove early morning and I stood in line and I went up in the halfway mark. It was probably about 200 of us. And then within the first 10, I was like, oh, that guy's good. And I was like, he's polished.
Yeah.
And then I just talked about the logistics of Heaven's Gate, which I was probably about 3 years, behind, where they're probably like, yeah, we already talked about this 3 years ago.
This is the first. If I was a judge right now and you were doing the Heaven's Gate Act, I would think it was so fresh because I'd be like, I've never even heard of this. I can't wait to watch it. I would have been very into it. I have to be honest. I would have said, this girl's amazing and she's a star.
Well, here's the thing. It's one of those bits that you're like, I think I had some good ideas with it, but that was my first time doing stand-up. I just didn't have the chops to sell it.
But you could go back.
So now, especially with the doc, now it's relevant again. But within the first sentence or idea that I threw out there and you could just sense the room, you panic and you're like, never mind. Then you go on to your next idea. That was such a daunting thing. And I left. But I remember thinking, you know what? I'm not the worst. I wasn't the worst comic there.
And 3 years in is not a long time.
I wasn't even 3 years in. It was my very first time of ever doing stand-up.
So wait, your first time doing stand-up, you went and entered a
competition? Yeah, because I didn't know.
Wow, that is, first of all, I commend you for even doing that. That's pretty amazing that you just were like, hey, I'm funny. I've never said this stuff to anyone before, and I'm going to go to a competition with this.
Yeah, I'm ready.
That is the same type of craziness you need in a cult, where someone is just right then and there, you can get them, and they're into it.
Well, here's the thing. I did it, and then I had a few comics afterwards talk to me, and I think because I was like a 21-year-old girl, that's all it takes, and it was guy comics, and then they were nice, they were respectful, but they were like, oh, that was fine. And then they told me about the mic. And so I felt like I got positive reinforcement. And then I've been in the cult of comedy ever since.
Yes. See, that's all you needed. Maybe if somebody said, hey, you're terrible, you would have right now been like a paralegal.
Just like we talked about in the very beginning with feedback, that you're like, you're right. It's time. And I think I would. If I didn't get positive feedback in the beginning, I don't think I would probably be doing stand. You're like, no one's ever said I was good or funny, so I might as well check out.
It's also weird, too, the people that you start stand-up with who you think are going to make it. Or, I remember being at interning at, New York Comedy Club or Broadway Comedy Club, and you watch the comics who are on, and you're just like, this person has it. And then you do comedy more, and you're like, oh, that person was terrible.
Yeah, or they're like, oh, I guess they're a hack, or that you also notice their act never develops, and it's just kind of the same thing over and over again.
And especially you could trick me into thinking you were a great comic if you were high energy. If you were flopping around on stage, I was like, that person has it.
He's got
it. Didn't even matter what they were saying. If you were fucking a stool, I thought you were a genius.
Oh, it's insane. There's been so many times now, there were people that I was jealous of 15 years ago that don't even do stand-up anymore.
No. I remember there was one guy who gave me advice about stand-up, and he doesn't do it anymore either. There was another guy who, I always talk about this guy that who was funny, and I saw him quit stand-up the moment he couldn't get on a show, and this guy on stage was humping a stool. Like,
Yeah.
I always think about that guy 'cause he's funny. He should have kept doing it, but that was the moment I saw him. They told him he couldn't get on stage. He couldn't get time, but that guy on stage was killing with humping a stool. And that guy who was humping a stool, I followed up on him, and he's now in real estate.
Wow.
He's probably fucking everything in the house when he shows it to them. He's like, you can fuck in the kitchen, you can fuck in the sofa,
Watch
you can fuck in the
this.
bathroom. Yeah, that guy now is just like in real estate.
That's wild. That's so
Mhm.
crazy. I know there's plenty of guys like that, like or girls too. Like you see them work really hard, and then the year they don't get, and then they don't get into Montreal that year, and then they quit for good, and you're like, well,
I
you're
also
gonna do that for 8 years straight at least.
Yeah, once you're in, it's so weird 'cause once you've committed and have been doing it for a long time, you just keep going. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? 'Cause then you feel like, well, I've wasted 12 years of my life.
Yeah, like I talked about that with my sister of like, well, what am I supposed to do? My resume is so fucked because I've just been like chunks of time where I didn't need to work, or working odd jobs here and there that aren't really stuff that you can put on a resume. It's like we've talked about where it's like I've just been in a halfway house for 20 years.
I liked your idea of saying that you were in R. Kelly's basement.
I like that one, or I could just say I was part of Heaven's Gate.
Well, didn't everyone in Heaven's Gate die? 'Cause then I think they might bring up your commitment.
Well, that's where I showed initiative and I knew to get out.
Ooh, spicy turn. You're a little too, I think you're a little too young, though.
I am. I would have been one of the younger members. I would have at least been 15.
I would think it's harder to get people into a cult once the internet was born. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it was a lot easier to trick people when they couldn't look stuff up.
Well, it seems now the way that the cult has gone is not religion based, but to promise you results in your life, like that Nexium cult was like a multi-level marketing, being like, if you get more members to pay money for the courses, that sustains. Then you get you start getting raises because you're recruiting people, and then this guy Keith Raniere just keeps full of the bullshit.
Well, remember I was talking about Landmark, and I sent you that.
Yeah.
So I think
Very
it was
similar.
called Landmark, and then they would do similar stuff. 'Cause when that sponsor was trying to get me into it, I just looked it up 'cause I was curious. And it's a lot of people saying they keep you in these meetings for hours, you can't leave. They kind of just beat you down emotionally. Where they won't let you use the bathroom, they won't really let you leave. And I feel like I liked your joke about how you would like to join Scientology to see if you could have the willpower to leave.
Well, it seems like kind of like a fun activity.
I think if I was
to
in
play with fire
Scientology,
like that.
Yeah, as long as they kept telling me, if they were like, hey, Tom Cruise is going to be here next week, I would keep coming just until I saw him.
Yes.
And I think that's how they would get me, 'cause I would just keep waiting every week for him, like keep a Santa.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably their number one bargaining chip. You are so
Do you
want
want to miss Tom Cruise?
Yeah, he's
He's
gonna
coming
be
next
here,
week.
and he's got a lot of stuff that will enlighten you.
I think there's a lot of famous people in Scientology.
Yeah, but it seems like Scientology is also run that same way as a multi-level marketing, where they mainly make their money by getting more members.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, and then they, I think you pay. I'm sure people, if you guys know more information, I still have yet to watch Going Clear, that whole documentary about it.
I did watch it. It's pretty interesting.
Well, it sounds like, do you go and take tests? And I'm assuming you probably have to save up money in order to get evaluated and stuff like that.
I would love to do it and just fuck with them, but I feel like they'd probably just shoot me.
Or just
I
keep
think
you
that's-
hidden.
Yeah, they would probably just shoot me like at that party where everyone's like, don't go in that room.
Yeah.
And everyone's just drinking.
Yeah. I mean, there's that speculation of the wife of some major leader that people haven't seen in like 4 years or something crazy like that.
Also, in watching Bloodline, I thought of this, like when they're killing people, why aren't they just burying them in a cemetery? Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody's really going to look at a cemetery, especially if someone's going to say, like, I had a grandparent that died. Just dig a little deeper, bury that person, then just put my grandfather on top of them. Is this like, this other people have to have thought of that, right?
I know, but I'm like, Adrienne, I feel like you've just stumbled across something. Like,
I know, and now I have to kill people and see if it works.
Like, a freshly dug grave stands out way more in a forest than in
It does in a cemetery.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to a cemetery to see if somebody's being buried there.
I think this is like one of your more brilliant ideas.
I would have to say I think it is too. I don't know what to do with it though. Like, how do I make money off of this? Do I just put an ad on Craigslist and I'm like, hey, I have the best way to get rid of a body?
It's your life
Just
hack.
Venmo me $500 and I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah, or like you could, if you find one of those like old historical graves that you put him in the costume that looks just like somebody that would be buried during that time period.
Like in a fucking Civil War reenactment outfit. And then you just bury them in Potter's grave or whatever the fuck it's called.
You have them in those like cheap Halloween costumes that you can get in a bag where they're like, wait, this Civil War general has Velcro pants.
You're like, and this is also a plastic knife or whatever the fuck they used. What was the kind of guns they used that had like the spear on the end?
Is that called a bayonet?
Bayonet, yeah. They were like, this bayonet is plastic.
Yeah, I'm suspect, but like, I'm sure even if they dug up the body and just glanced at it briefly, they would be like, it looks. I guess it would be newly decomposed. That would, and you're like, I guess maybe they
think the
preserved
cemetery idea is the best idea. Or I have seen on another show where they just take the body to like an incinerator in a morgue.
That's perfect.
That's another good one. I feel like I'm really curious about people who are in that business now, if they've gotten paid like, hey, if you give me $100,000, I'll burn this person for you.
Maybe.
It seems like the best way to get rid of a body.
Yeah, because once it's burned, you can't do any autopsy.
Didn't you also say your sister would put someone in a tree?
Yeah, I love that. She's like, no one ever looks up for a body. And you're like, you're absolutely right.
I mean, until they fall out of the tree.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how long has this person been there? That is hilarious. Or I would think, too, right around 9/11, you could just throw a body in that rubble.
Yeah.
And this person's not burned, but this person's not burned, but they have a lot of bullet holes in them. You're like, somebody must have shot them coming down.
Oh, I think, wasn't that like a theory about Chandra Levy? Because she went missing around the same time that 9/11 happened.
Oh, she might have. I don't I think that case was, I think she was a nurse or something, right?
I don't know what it was, but she was involved with some U.S. congressman or senator.
I feel like my dad was in the hospital at that time, and I thought every time, and it was so funny. You ever see like something and they're like, be on the lookout for this person, then like all day you're looking for them.
You're like,
then
what
you
are
kind
the
of give up.
chances? Yeah.
I know, but I was in a hospital, and I think Sandra Levy was like a nurse, and I just kept thinking everyone was her, and I was like, should I make a call?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I think I seen Sandra Levy on Gun Hill Road in the Bronx. What are the odds?
Yeah. I love that because I had that same thought of like when I was in Aruba, I'm like, maybe I'll find Amanda Holloway's body.
Natalie Holloway.
Who's Amanda?
Amanda Knox.
Maybe I got my ladies confused.
But I think Amanda Knox was actually a murderer. Didn't
Yeah.
she like...
She was exonerated.
Yeah, this is where the facts of this are going to go off the rails. Didn't she... Was she the one that killed her boyfriend that had like one leg missing? And remember there was a track This is like 7 cases in one. Remember the guy who like ran track, but he had like a plastic leg that was just kind of like a.
Oscar Pistorius in South Africa.
Didn't somebody kill him?
No, he
Or did he kill
shot
someone?
he shot his girlfriend, and he had a history of domestic violence. And I think he may have gotten off.
See, now if I was that guy, I would have just beat her with my wooden spoon leg.
Yeah, well, it was it was even
That's
stronger. It was like a blade. He had one of those
Yeah.
blade legs that could slice you.
that's what I would have done, and I would have made it like we were having sex and we switched positions, and I just got her in the throat, and
And
her
I just
throat cut open.
Sliced her. Yeah.
That's a
I mean,
weapon.
Adrienne, you would make an amazing defense lawyer with your theories on what had happened.
I feel like it's not his fault. He has a blade leg. Anyone within he should just come with one of those warnings. If you come within 10 feet of me and die, it's your fault.
Yeah, I have. And I'm really fast because I'm in the
He's
Special
really-
Olympics.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I wonder, how did he lose his leg? Was it to cancer or something?
Yeah, I think so. I was just thinking, I guess I want to correct, he wasn't in Special Olympics. It's the Paraplegic Olympics, and I'm sure they get really mad when you confuse the two.
Oh, I thought it was a Special Olympics because I was going to say if you're a pretty good athlete but not good enough for the regular Olympics, just cut your leg off.
Yeah.
and, then, and then get to the Special Olympics, and then you could just fucking kill it every year. They're like, this guy's fucking great.
He's so amazing. Absolutely. I wonder if there's amazing athletes in the Special Olympics that
There has
never
to be.
gets talked about.
I would start small though and say, "Hey, can I just cut a finger off and then get in it?" And if
Yeah,
they're like,
like-
no, I'd say 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and then finally I'd have to just cut an arm off. And I'd be like, "Hey, you're not allowed in the Special Olympics. You asked too many questions about it." And you're like, "Fine, I'm just gonna start this cult." Blade
They're like
leg.
this. Can you get this lady out of my office?
It's just funny. You come in there with less limbs every time, and you're like, "Hey, can I make it in now?" And they're like, "No, you still have a fucking arm and 2 legs." You're like, "Okay, I'll cut a leg off. Can I make it in now?" Then you're just stumbling
Absolutely.
as a stump.
They're just mad at. They're like, God, here she comes.
They're like, "Tell her she's not gonna be in it."
I'm sorry, Adrienne. Well,
Well,
this has
that
been
was
really
fun.
fun. A fun
Now I don't
Sunday
even
morning.
I don't feel bad about all my shows that I've lost now because we were talking about this. You actually cheered me up.
That's great. And now you can get into Game of Thrones and let me know what you think.
I'm gonna get into it. I also want to watch the Nexium thing. So
I think you'll like the Nexium, and I want you to watch it because I find there's several aspects of it that I think are really funny and interesting.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get HBO for a month and watch
Yeah,
it.
maybe yeah. You could probably just get the HBO Max trial for 30 days and then watch it and then cancel it.
I'll try that.
Guys, follow us on Patreon.
We
We
did get some new Patreons, and we appreciate it.
We did, and then we lost some, which I understand. It's always that case. Once it's the month, beginning of a new month, and then Christmas, they're like, I got to get $5 for my Christmas present, so I can't
Yeah.
do a Patreon.
Amy sent out an email about doing like a Christmas
Secret Santa?
kind of like Secret Santa. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's $10. But
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'll do it, but I'm not going to go to the post office, so I'm just going to Venmo someone $10. I don't want to be around other people. I'm just going to Venmo someone. I'll do even 15, so then they brag.
Yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
if you just get an address and then you can mail it to them.
A Venmo. Oh, I'll mail them a check. I'll give
Yeah.
them more work.
Well, you can give them you can gift an Amazon gift card through,
Good idea.
where you don't have to leave or anything like that.
Guys, we hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, and I hope you have a nice Christmas, and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, because I don't know what else is out there.
Yeah, anything new? Heaven's Gate.
Ooh,
Christmas.
Scientology. What do they celebrate?
I don't think they have holidays. That's how you know it's a bullshit religion if they don't have a holiday.
Or like in the middle of the year, they're like, "Hey, everyone, we have a new holiday we're instituting." And you're like, "What is it?" And they're like, "Well, you just gotta you gotta find
join, but
somebody."
it's a pretty kick-ass holiday.
Yeah, we're not gonna tell you till after you give us $1,000. Guys, we love you. Oh, I'm putting my album out December 29th. It's called Baby Skeletons, and Little Zuzu's on it. It's a cartoon.
Yes.
It's very cool. Pre-sales will start December 15th.
Yeah, you'll see the links in all of our social media.
Also, if you have not gotten Sarah's album, I'm very disappointed in you, especially if you've listened to us for free for 4 years. And I get it, some people don't want to do a Patreon, but at least buy Sarah's album and my album. It's only
for
like $20.
Christmas. Or you can stream it.
I think if you really like someone, you could give them Sarah's album, and if you really don't like them, you could give them mine. I think one will make them happy and one will make them upset.
You should do a Vadge gift package.
Ooh, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe
That
we could
sounds
do
like
that
fun.
together.
I'd like
can
that.
Do both of our albums at a discounted price or something.
With some stickers.
Yeah, Vadge stickers, some pictures of Zuzu, who is officially almost all blind. I saw her just barking in the corner. So sad, but so funny. Where she's like just blind barking in a corner. I have to just pretend
Zuzu.
that's where the dogs are.
I know. Oh, well.
All right, guys. Thanks for following us and being committed Vadgies.
Yes.
I had one Vadge listener tell me that she gets upset and anxious and she's just driving around listening to Vadge and it makes her happy.
That's always nice.
Guys, go try that if you're having some anxiety because of COVID.
Yeah. Get out. We'll be your friends.
Yes.
All right. Be cool.
Bye, guys.